Hey, this is Nick Romolini, and welcome to another episode of The Blank Page, a podcast about creativity and neuroses. Although I've been thinking lately about maybe switching gears a little bit and starting to have some different conversations that aren't so limited to these two topics. So I hope you guys will join me on that journey as well. Today's episode is with Jena Serbu. She's a writer and director based in Los Angeles. She's also a production designer. She's originally from Philly, which is where I met her. I have a ton of admiration for Jena and her journey, which you'll hear, which started out on the street as a runaway, and she got a degree and became a business lady and then became an independent filmmaker. Jena's an award-winning writer and director, probably best known for the 2017 film SMARTASS, although I urge all of you to look her up and see some of the amazing work she's done as a writer, director, and production designer. Jena, in a lot of ways, helped me get into my career in Philly. I interned with her company, Sweetbread Studios, back in 2009, 2008, something like that. And we worked on some crazy-ass projects, and it was a lot of fun. A very guerrilla style with a bunch of crazy characters. And we cover a lot of things in this podcast. It's too much for me to even get into. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jena Serbu, and hopefully I'll be checking in with you guys real soon, maybe with a little bit of a different direction. And just one last thing before we get into it here. This episode was recorded back in February of 2021, and I'm releasing it in October of 2021. And certainly a lot has changed from then to now, both for me on a personal level and, of course, globally and in this country. And I think that time and reflection is what's prompted me to want to change course a little bit with the podcast conversations moving forward. I'll leave it at that for now. As always, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for checking in. Subscribe if you want to, leave a comment, whatever I'm supposed to tell you to do. Thanks, guys. What's up?
Not much.
How's today?
Today was actually better than it's been in this week.
That's good.
So there's that. Yeah.
Feels like there's hope coming.
Does it?
I don't know. Maybe it's just in my head. I don't know. But just let me cling to that, please.
I'm going to give it a note. I won't step on that at all, but I don't know that I share that.
Yeah.
I just know it's been better than the rest of this week. This week was rough and so moody. What a moody week.
Yeah?
Yeah, this has just been, I finished that action movie I was working on, and then I got notes on my last scene, and then I tried to rewrite the last scene for like 3 days. Finally got it, and Hunter loved it. So thank God. So that happened. But it was brutal. I just kept getting up and walking around in circles.
What is this action movie?
The, 007, futuristic, way a bigger budget than I've ever written.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's really freeing. I've never written something where there's like rocket launchers and people falling out of jets and trying to shoot other jets and imagining these giant sets that don't exist. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Plus, it's an action movie, which I haven't had a ton of experience writing, which was also really fun.
Right.
And difficult. Definitely a challenge.
Right.
Yeah, so that happened this week. So that's nice, kind of.
And that was a rewrite job, or?
Well, they had a script, then they didn't want to shop it, and it was rather rough. And I said they brought me on to rewrite. I think they knew that I would not be able to do that because there was not much to work with, and that I would end up just writing it from scratch, which is pretty much what happened.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different story. But that's now moved on, and that plate is clear. And there's this low budget movie that's, bugging the crap out of me. How was your week?
My week was all right. I don't know. The existential crises have sort of been at bay. I did have my son calling me a butt-faced weirdo all day, but that was fun. I mean, I would prefer to be called a butt-faced weirdo than have to worry about, all the other shit. No, it's been good. I worked this week. I'm cutting
Gotcha.
some, featurettes, which is cool. Maybe that's where the hope is coming from. But yeah, I haven't written anything in like 4 months, dude.
Yeah, I've had that happen, but only when I'm on seriously demanding jobs that have no, breath in between.
Right.
So, do you miss it? Are you feeling a void, or you feel like you're rocking and rolling without it and back when it needs to?
Well, I feel like I've been in this impasse for the last several months where I was working on this project with a collaborator, and the collaborator kind of fell off. And I was like almost finished with what I was supposed to complete for it. And then that kind of happened, and I was like, I don't know. And so I'm like stuck. I feel like I'm in this weird limbo where it's like I want to write this last 10 pages just so I can feel like I did my part and I can move on. But then I'm like, I can't even touch it because I'm just disinterested. And so I'm finding it hard to like, just leave something sort of hanging in the wings like that. Even though I have so many things that are unfinished, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I a while ago I was location scouting in where was I? Mississippi. And I was with one of my guys, and we started talking about a script that I wrote while we were shooting, like right before SMARTASS, like right before we went into production on SMARTASS. I started this movie, West Texas, and tried so hard. Oh my God, I gave this movie everything I had for like a year or two.
Right.
And I couldn't get it right. And the boys, the financiers were on board. I couldn't get it right. I kept going back, and I just read it today, and I'm like, this is really good. And I'm reading it. I'm like, this is really good. And I'm reading it, and I get to page 88, and I've got like, I do a yellow highlight whenever I'm working with somebody, like that's where I got to. And it says, this is where I got to. I was like, what? I didn't end it. There's a billion endings, but I didn't end this rewrite. So it's kind of brutal in the future, but now I'm really excited about the project.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so maybe it's best that I didn't write the ending, because now it can evolve into what it's supposed to be. You know?
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah. My thing is like with this project, I just feel like I'm not holding up my end of the bargain. It's weird because it's like a partnership, so it's like, I feel like even if the other person isn't working on what they're supposed to be working on, if I haven't completed what I said I would, I've come up short. I've failed in some way.
Well, what you said, they fell off.
Yeah.
Because when people fall off that I'm working on, it's really hard for me to keep motivated.
So I have like carte blanche to do whatever I want at this point, really. Yeah,
that's fun. But also, I don't know, I'm pretty codependent when it comes to working with somebody on a project. Like, I really need a reader. I really need like constant notes. So if that person loses interest, then I'm like, oh my God, the project has lost, the world's lost interest in the project.
Right.
So then I have a tough time going back, but that's my process. I mean, yeah, you have freedom now. I guess that's one way to look at it. That's not the way that I would look at it, but because I love parameters.
Yeah.
I live for restrictions.
Right.
Like, I was so creative in corporate America because I had to go sit in a cubicle or a bar for how many hours a day.
Right.
And I just couldn't handle it. So I was creating every second of every minute that I could get away from that.
Right.
And those restrictions are super powerful for me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I operate best when I have someone or something to answer to,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have anybody to answer to. I'm doing this for nobody, nothing, just me. So like, what incentive do I have? I mean, obviously I want to be doing this thing that I'm not doing right now, that I'm certainly talking a lot about doing, but it's like, I mean, I think that's why I'm a good editor, because I fucking have to do the job for the producer. Like, I have someone to answer to. With writing, with any personal project, it's like, all I got to fucking answer to is myself. So like, what's the motivation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the experience that I just had in being paid for that script changed everything.
I'm sure.
I really rocked that story out in a very quick time frame.
Right.
Because there was a paycheck at the end of it, and there was somebody reading. It's really what I desire in life, is to have that at all times.
Right.
You know, and I can take the feedback. I took classes for Sundance last year.
Oh yeah, I want to hear about those.
Well, was it last year, or was it
who the fuck knows at this point, dude?
Yeah, I have no idea. I took these classes. Oh, I was working on a movie with Mark Dahl, and actually a series, and I was like, all right, let's hear what the Hollywood gods think of how the structure should be on a series. And I took a series class with the Sundance, and it was online, and I do really poorly on Zoom.
Yeah.
I haven't, I'm watching American Gods right now, and I'm like, God, I feel for him. Ian McShane, who was my favorite character in any series ever, Swearingen on Deadwood, but he's this old god battling the new gods, and I'm like, oh, it's just fucking hate it. I hate it. I like brick and mortar and face to face and being in class with human beings and watching, and all of that, the experiences and the quantum information we get from other people and being close to them, and it's just lost in this world. And then you can see people's faces and you think you understand, but all of the senses that you usually have aren't taking in anything, and I hate it.
I know.
So I'm really bad at it. So I don't get a lot. Yeah. So I don't get a lot from these classes. It was nice. I got information. I learned more about structure. I got some feedback, but it wasn't like this project.
Right.
It was like, I'm here to be judged by you guys on the computer. This is great. Right. I can't imagine what it's like to be a child right now, having to sit down in front of a computer and be told like whether you're good or not by a teacher.
I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. I mean, I have a 5-year-old, so like there's other issues there, but being like a 10, 12, 13, like any like into that age, no, I have no idea how they're surviving right now and how it feels and what long-term consequences there are going to be.
I met with a girl last night, and she's, I guess, Gen Z. She's an influencer. She's a trans influencer, and she's and was on like RuPaul's Drag Race and whatnot. And we were talking about movies and whether they'll even like all this work we're doing, will they ever even be watched?
I know.
She said she cannot watch a movie. She can't.
Oh, just that aged person can't watch a movie, you mean? The attention span just doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist. It's not, I wonder if it's attention span, because here's my thing about attention span. They can sit and look at a phone.
Right. Interest,
right?
I guess.
So I mean, yeah, the topic changes, but they're literally still looking at like variety of things.
Right.
On a device, not moving.
But they're directing
hours.
the experience, though.
And they're directing the experience.
I think that's a big part of it.
It is. I mean, but she can't watch anything. Now, I live with some 20-year-olds and like, not 20, but like late 20s, and they're more movie files than I am. So
right.
But the younger it gets and the more they live within devices, I mean, this is such a conversation that goes around and around right now, but it's changing so fast.
Yeah, it's weird. This pandemic situation has really accelerated it too. Oh
my God. I was talking, Mark is writing a pretty beautiful story about World War II, which I know everybody has, done their take on World War II, but he's got a really interesting angle. And he got caught up in the fear of, but there's real people out here that did this. And I'm like, yeah, but this is a story and we're storytellers, and tell your story from your perspective. And it's very important that your voice tells whoever's knocking on you to tell their story, right?
Right.
And I said, and you have to, because people aren't going to read a book about it.
Right.
Like what's going to happen in the future when I mean, I grew up reading.
Right.
And now it's like impossible for like get through a whole book. I finally got through a book recently, but
I have so many. If you look on my bookshelf, there's so many bookmarks in like the middle or, the first third or something of the book. And it's like, I guess they'll maybe be read one day. I have no idea.
I mean, you would think the pandemic would have made you like,
I got all these goddamn kids, I got a lot fucking going on with these kids. I mean, that's the other thing. Like I talk about, I don't do anything. I haven't done anything for 4 months. Like I have these kids. So like I can kind of blame it on that, for now. But that's not going to last long.
I mean, it's massive. It's a massive life change, but yeah. I mean, eventually you'll just need it.
Yeah, and the time will open up again, I think. Like, when I was really in a groove of working on this last project, like, there was nothing else that was happening after 8 p.m. for me every single night. There was nothing else that I felt like I needed to attend to, so I was just taking care of that. I also wasn't working and, like, fucking, there was no chores bullshit to do. Anyway, I'm completely off the reservation right now. So let's just back up a little bit because I'm very interested in the corporate America stuff that you were just talking about. But like, and this will kind of lead into that, I guess. But like when I met you back in like 2008, 2009, whatever that was, you had like, it was like there was like a whole community of like gypsies swirling around you, I felt like. And like you were doing live events, you had the production company. Like how did you get from, live events like the Drunk Spelling Bee, how did you get from your corporate date? Like, I don't even know what your story is really up to that point. So tell me that. Okay.
Well, I was uneducated and wanted to be a writer and thought I could just, I would happen or whatever. I was very lost when I was much younger. And I came back, we made a feature film, paid for it in New York, and it went nowhere. It was unwatchable. I think I've seen it since then. And I was freaking out and I needed to do something. So I went to school for business economics. And I had a teacher who thought he was gay and he thought I was just, fancy. And he would talk me into coming to be a part of his group, and I had no interest in it. And he's like, I'll let you do the displays. So like I came into the displays in the risk management section of Fox Business School, and he got me a job, and thank God for him. And I do owe him a great deal. And I told them on my job interview that I didn't want to work in corporate America, and especially not at an insurance firm, which I thought this place was. And they laughed at me. I said, I just think I'm going to be bored, and I suck when I'm bored. And they literally laughed at me. And then they ended up with me.
Right.
They hired me and then they ended up with me. And it was a bad fit. Like it was a genuinely bad fit.
I told them.
I told him, and then my boss laughed at me. Oh, you're going to have the craziest boss ever. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what I am. Like I'm a runaway drug addict, drug dealing, ex drug addict, ex drug dealer, ex titty dancer. Like I'm a mess. I've been homeless for years. Like what? And they're like, yeah, you get this crazy woman. And she was like a sorority girl, like sorority girls gone wild kind of chick. And she was cool because she was really driven. Like she wanted to be the most badass producer. And that was kind of cool in the beginning because she was really like, she wanted to kill everybody. And I liked that about her. But then she got just lazy and I learned to drink in corporate America. I didn't drink or do drugs at all. Till I was like, and I don't do drugs, but I started drinking when I was 27 or 28 in corporate America. And so I get hired. I remember I had an eye twitch because that's what happens when I get super overwhelmed.
I have one of those right now. I've had one for like a month straight. I swear to God. I'm actually to the point where like, fuck, should I go to the ophthalmologist? Like, is this concerning? But yeah. Fucking
No,
eye
it's
twitch.
just stress. To me, it's stress.
Yeah,
Like I know, or nervousness. Like sometimes I'll get them. Like I'm like, and then when I get it, I'm like, who's making me nervous?
Right.
Like what's happening? So I was in finals, got hired at this company in a different world. I'd never been in the real world, like with the quotes, that
Right.
socioeconomic level.
Sure.
I bought a house for the first time ever that the guy that inspected it told me if I was his daughter, he'd never let me buy it. I was like, thanks. All right, I'm not going to listen to you. And still own the house, by the way. And I bought a house in finals, got hired. And I was just way beyond myself.
Right.
I had no idea how to handle all of it. And for a year, I learned how to be an electrician, rip down walls and pretend like I could spackle, which I can't spackle at all. And I built the house that I lived in for a decade.
Amazing.
And after that first year of being in the confines, learning how to live in that corporate world, wear a suit, and pretend to be on that level. Well, until I was. Mm-hmm. After that year, I was like, okay, I'm ready for something else. And I met Mark Dahl and this guy, Ben Keynes. They wanted to start, and they were both theater guys.
Okay.
And I'd like never even been to the theater. I mean, it's really embarrassing. By the time I was like 26 or 7 or something, I think a boyfriend finally took me to see like Evita or Cabaret, because I grew up with those 2 albums.
Okay.
So I have no idea what I'm doing. And I joined these guys and we started a production company. They wanted a girl. They wanted the diversity. This was diversity before diversity.
Sure. When women were the diversity hires.
When women were the diversity. Yeah. So it's like some Jewish guy. And Mark, who's big queen, and me. And we started this production company and we took off and we did all this stuff for free because we had such heart. God, we believed, like we just had so much fun. We called ourselves the Teen Togethers Army, and we roped people like you into coming to help us.
Right.
And, make ridiculous art that made no sense half the time, avant-garde, weird ass shit. And we did it for a decade, and it was one of the most creative periods of my life. And we had an army of people. I don't even know how.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember the first time I saw like the army. I was like, where the fuck did all these people come from, and how did you like assemble them all? I mean, I think that's like one of my biggest questions is like, how do you get people to believe in what you're selling, I guess? Like, I mean, the one time I've ever really felt like I had the shit under control was when I did my short, and there was a very small crew. It was very manageable. I mean, I had it, everything was still like, I knew fucking everything that I needed to do on the day. But like, to get that many people to believe in you, like where you need like self-assuredness and self-belief, like where does that come from?
Oh, is this, I just didn't know better. I just didn't know. I mean, I've heard it from so many other people in the world. Like, I just didn't know it wasn't possible. I was like, this is fun, and I want to keep doing it. And then I was a train that was unstoppable. So the thing with me, that the reason that the army kept growing and kept growing and kept growing was we just never stopped. The second we were done with something, the next thing was moving.
Right.
The next train. So everybody like would jump on and stay on for as long as they were. And we had multiple projects going out at the same time and different mediums. Like we had the bar event. We would do these theater events. Mark and I were such different people. Ben eventually fell off. It just became Mark and I. And then, I don't know. I mean, how did I get Dawn? Like I ended up with this amazing assistant that just did everything without questioning. And I don't know why.
Right.
And it was really, I think it was because I gave people art.
Right.
Like we weren't doing it to be on TV. We weren't doing it to be like accepted by Hollywood. We weren't doing it I didn't even know who was who at all. Like I just did it because for the love of it. And I think that passion is, you can't pretend to have it, because I don't have it here. I don't have that same thing in LA. Right. Because out here, I'm here I want to go to a different level, and to be on this different level takes a great deal of money. And I never had I never had large financial backers when we were doing Uncut.
Right.
And stuff like that. We'd always like scrape together pennies, and Tony Luke gave us sandwiches for a month and shit like that. Yeah, I did. I hustled some major shit though. I got the grounds of the art museum. I got Philadelphia Parks and Rec to give me the grounds of the art museum and overnight as long as we wanted to live there for 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Like what? Why? Why would you do that? It's a terrible idea.
How did you pull that off?
I just kept for a year. I kept going over there and kept going over there. And I finally got into his office and I sat down. I'm like, you're not allowed to say no to me.
Wow.
And then Mark Dahl got us across from the Kimmel Center on Broad Street. There was an empty lot, which is now a new building's being built in it. I was there a little while ago.
I remember that lot. That was empty forever.
And we almost killed a bunch of people. We seriously did. It was really bad. I'm in corporate America riding a motorcycle in a hurricane from work in heels and a dress. And the ceiling of our makeshift tent theater has filled up with water such that the tarp on the roof is down at my nose from a 3-story scaffolding. It was bad. We did it.
What were you building? What did I miss? What was being built?
Yeah, I think you came out. That was one of the best things.
What was actually being built? What were you building?
The theater that we put the play on in.
So you convinced the city to let you use an empty lot to build a makeshift theater with scaffolding?
That we almost killed people. Yeah, with no plans. Like Dawn and my camera guy who was like the set deck guy at Urban Outfitters, like drew a bunch of plans on a piece of paper, and I'm like, where are the plans? And they showed me this. I was like, those are your plans? All right, whatever. Don't kill people. And they almost did. Mark went home crying, and we had to call on this local fiddler player, this amazing guy, and he came over and made sure that we knew how to keep our roof and our walls from falling down. But they never checked on us. The city never checked.
It's insane.
We're on Broad Street. We had people. A bum also shit on our chairs for that. Like in the night, we came in the morning and there was like bum poop on our stadium seating. I was like, Dawn, I can't handle this right now.
Wow.
But it was a lot of drama, but that was one of the best things we did. It's the one thing. Bria B is an actress that has done really well, and she lives out here in LA. And before she came to LA, I conned her into all kinds of shit. And she was the lead in that play that I almost killed people in. We almost killed people in. And it was her favorite thing we've ever done.
That's insane. That's such like a fucking band of gypsies. I mean, it's crazy that you pulled that shit off.
What a great run. We had so much fun and it was so hard, but I had energy for days and just didn't know what I was doing and kept doing it. Just kept doing it.
Right.
But I didn't wait to see if anybody said yes or accepted me or accepted what we did. The second we were done a project, it was like giving, we were just like it was an orgy of creation. And that once the baby was out, we moved on to the next thing.
Right.
I mean, we had such a good time.
So you, I'm just trying to get this straight in my head. So you wanted to be a writer as a kid.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was.
And then you just thought that you could just do that somehow.
Oh no, again. I didn't have any guidance and I thought I was so smart and I just wasn't. And I never listened to anybody and I finally found a mentor. When I got off dope, when I was 17 years old in Narcotics Anonymous, I met this lesbian. And she had a master's degree in comparative literature, South American studies. And I just thought that was everything. And I followed her like a little puppy and was just like, brain, give me your brain, give me books to read, And I read so furiously and so intensely for 2 years, but with no education, and she couldn't get a job. That didn't fare well for my learning about the world either.
Right.
Like she couldn't get a job to save her life.
It was just purely academic.
It was purely academic. I mean, she ended up going to Switzerland, and Herzog was one of her teachers. And
Oh wow.
yeah, I mean, she ended up making some movies. She moved to Austin, I think, with a girlfriend, and she ended up making some movies and stuff. But I've fallen. I haven't talked to her in years. And she worked at NYU as a teacher, but wasn't making any money there either. I mean, like,
right.
It's brutal. But I had her for a minute, but
I've been wondering this lately. Like, how old, because I'm 36. Is it like embarrassing at this point to be like, yo, I need a mentor? Like, is this like, is the ship sailed on me? Like, no, having somebody fucking guide me?
No, I'm a decade older than you, and I'm still looking for it.
Right.
I don't, and I find it here and there, and I find it a little bit in pieces here and there. I mean, I know that I'm looked at as a mentor, and I'm like, okay, welcome to look at me as a mentor. But, I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm a good mentor with production design. I'm a great mentor with low budget stuff. Like, I know how to pull stuff off.
Totally.
A good mentor with like learning, like making sure that you take care of yourself. But I don't know, because I haven't really gotten into this world yet with like agents and stuff. Like, that's an entire learning curve.
Totally.
I'll get it. But, and in there, I hope to find, even at my age, but I lived with this woman. So I lived with this woman when I first came to town, and she's a very, very, very successful costume designer, and she's in the academy and blah, 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 blah. And, underneath it all, we all could use a mentor. I mean, my mentor also could be 30. Right. Like, that's the truth of it. Age is weird. It does bring wisdom, and you have a lot to pull from. But you've got to be open to that. I don't think your age limits you on finding people to teach you. I think that comes in all forms.
Right.
And especially guide you through Hollywood. I mean, my gosh, this labyrinth of personalities and politics.
It's an impossible place. In a lot of ways, it's just such an impossible place. I mean, for me to sort of like, because I want to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, and it's 8 years later, I can't figure it out. I still find it completely befuddling, this city and the way it operates and this business.
It's funny because it's like you're born into it and you get it. Well, so like when I went into corporate America. Mm-hmm. Same kind of thing, but I had a mentor who said, here, I'm going to show you all the ropes.
Right.
And it's the same thing when I get on a job on the lot. I had like someone's there and like, I have to tell them really quickly, like, hey, I don't do a lot of lot jobs. What's give me I don't know anything. Just act like I don't know anything. And they do, they give me the lowdown. And within a day, I feel like I've been there for 30 years. So, it's just a matter of, anywhere we go that we haven't been to before. It's just a matter of finding somebody who will help us navigate it. And it's nice to be born into something like this. It's also really nice, people really help you navigate if you become a big deal.
Right.
Like a sensation. And we're big on sensations right now. And that would have been nice if SmartAss had become a sensation, because then all these people would have lined up to find out what was coming next. And that's not happening. That hasn't happened. So then I have to figure out how to make myself important in the next thing.
Right.
It's just, but that's where we're outsiders.
Right.
Without a great fund of like pool of money behind us.
Right. It would be a lot different if we were born here or had piles of cash backing us. Yeah.
But, and so one of my actors, he's really just found his success. And from SmartAss, and he had done a lot of he had done drama most of his young career, and he's from out here, but not Hollywood, and he doesn't come from money at all. And he got on Survivor's Remorse, and he got on with the showrunner, and they brought him in the writing room, and now he's pitching shows and, working with, he's making it.
Yeah.
Making it like has really, really come up.
Right.
But it's been decades of nonstop.
Right. It's just a long ass game.
And when he came up, I happen to have been lucky enough to be on the cusp of that. He did SmartAss right before he kind of started taking off.
Oh, nice.
And he worked so, I mean, it's all he did. He was a machine for years.
Right.
And when we talked recently, we talked maybe a year ago, or no, it was during COVID. So yeah, whatever. It's been a year now. Jesus. So he said, I just was so driven. That's all I was. That's all I did for a year. And that's kind of what I've heard it takes. And
right.
I mean, we're doing it. We're here. We're living in it. I mean, we look great from afar, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, if you're not inside, my head, it looks like I'm living some type of dream, I'm doing something. I'm successful. It's so weird to try to explain to people like, no, I'm not successful. Like, I'm not even fucking close to what the thing is that I actually really want.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm successful. Like, yes, I have a career. Like, I make a living. Like, great. Yeah. Like, I can pay my rent, whatever. But like, I'm so fucking far from the thing,
Yeah, but you didn't come out here right away.
100%, yeah.
And that has a lot to do with it. I know with Bria didn't come out here. We didn't come out here right away.
Right.
And I thank God I didn't. I mean, not because my career would be further, but man, I just had such a cool life. Like, I can't imagine not having that. I
think I would have died. Honestly, I think I would be dead or in jail if I had come out here when I was like 19, 20, Like, I think I needed to sow my oats in Philly, where shit was like, the stakes weren't that high. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a different, there's the youth out here is driven in a way that, like, if you get on that train and it starts taking you with it, it's got a plan of its own. It's a, very convoluted, very, very destructive train.
Right.
And there's a lot of people looking to just destruct out here because it's so painful on so many levels to be creative that wants to make it, or that want, and man, it gets ugly. I mean, it gets ugly all over the country. It gets ugly everywhere. Although corporate America, those people were pretty bland.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of very interesting stories out of there.
Yeah, no.
I was one of the most, and I couldn't stay.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, so when did you finish your first script? When did you write your first script?
It was called Leftovers, I think, because that's the name of the heroin that I used to do. No, it wasn't called Leftovers. It was Blackheart. It was called Blackheart, and we had to change the name to Leftovers. It was called Blackheart over the heroin that me and this guy Ed used to use when we were really, really sick in Philly. And
when you were a teenager?
Yeah, I got clean at 17 years old. He got clean, I think, at 8. I think he was like 18 or 19. He was a couple of years older than me. And when we were getting high, we both had a mutual friend, and people used to say that I was the female version of him. But I was too, me. And he used to hate me because I wasn't low key enough. And he was very, he was really into being low key. And there was a murder, and all of our lives fell apart because of this murder. And they went to rehab separately than I did. We all got clean somehow. And I met him in our rehabs, I think, went to the same Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and I saw him. And we became these weird partners for like 3, 4, 5 years. Like, we were combustible. We were close, and then we'd blow up, and we would hate each other, and then we would come back together, and we would deal together because I never wanted to get high after I got clean. I was like, I'm so over that. I hate being owned. Right. I hate being controlled. So when I realized that when I finally woke up one morning, I was like, oh my God, I'm in prison. I built a prison, and I live in it, in this body.
Right.
Like, this is the only thing I said in my whole life I didn't want. And I've created it, and I had to get myself out. So I had no interest in doing drugs again, but I was like, I'm out of money. So can we start at least selling drugs? So I meet with him. We're both clean, and we start dealing like pounds of weed. And I'm he moves to New York. I forget why. And he calls me one day. He's like, "Yo, you right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well," and it was Kevin Smith was Clerks had come out, right? Mm-hmm. Tarantino had just kind of done Reservoir Dogs had come out. Like the whole idea of like you could make your own movie thing hit him. He's like, "Yo, why don't you write us a movie?" I was like, he's like, "Oh no, you still writing that story about us?" And I was like, "Well, no, it's like a 1 page." He's like, let's write a script, which meant I write a script.
Right.
And I wrote a really bad script, off the fervor of Tarantino and off the fervor of that whole time period of rawness and shock. I was a shock value, demon anyway. I started writing my originally, like when I started not getting kicked out in 6th grade of like writing poems, but like when I started reading to the public, I started doing poetry slams.
Okay.
When I first got clean, I met that girl Holly at poetry. It's like it was somehow involved in poetry. My best friend to this day, I met at a poetry slam in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and I was good, but I was very shock value. And the first movie I wrote was about the same thing. It was about this platonic couple, him and I, that got involved with a mobster that was running a snuff theater.
Nice.
I needed to get out from underneath him, but that was the story. So that's the first one I wrote, and it destroyed me.
Writing it destroyed you?
No, making it and it not going anywhere. Yeah. I have there's a DVD. There's not a DVD. Excuse me. Let me take you all the way back. There's a VHS motherfucking tape somewhere called Leftovers, and I think Dawn and I started to watch it. And I was like, "Oh, this shit's unwatchable."
Right.
But we made it. We made it in New York.
That's
16 millimeter, like we shot on film.
That's awesome. See, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, I just think it's great that fucking you did that. I don't know. I find that inspiring that, you did that and saw that through.
Yeah, I was like living in my van on the road, and I bought a new one because mine broke down and sold it. And, I was driving like a 79 Lincoln town car. That was like white. It had white leather seats and bullets. When I bought it, there were bullets in the like upholstery.
Dude,
I pulled out a bag of bullets. Yeah,
Lincoln Town Cars, 19. That's an amazing vehicle right there. I want one now.
It was amazing. Well, I let my bum live in it for a while outside of my house in Philly. I would like come out and like, "Don't you leave it?" Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I'm not going to let him live in the house,
right?
Because he was, he's smoking crack, but
right.
He
smoke crack in the Lincoln.
But it was like an apartment, for Christ's sake.
Right.
They pay $100s a week to do that here.
Right.
Yeah, but I sold my van, and I was dancing for money. I don't know if we were dealing at that point, but we kicked ass. I mean, he did a lot of the producing. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so cocky. I was such a cocky like jerk,
right,
in my 20s. So I learned a lot, and but it destroyed me when it didn't work out. Wasn't really good at handling failure because I hadn't experienced a lot of failure because I had run away from anything that could have looked like failure. Right. So like I pieced out when I was so young on anything that could have even smelled like I would not be successful.
Right.
So I had no coping skills for failure. I was asthmatic, so I didn't have any of those sports, the education you get in sports when your team loses. You try harder. Yeah. I didn't have any of that.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I'm still struggling with that. I feel like I think a lot of the reason why I don't do a lot is for fear of failure. I don't think I ever really learned how to fail gracefully. I think I've just avoided situations that could result in that. Like even, it's funny you mentioned sports. Like I played sports as a little kid, and I was a fucking rager. I was so competitive. I could not take it when we lost. I like when I was like 12, I punched a fucking like backboard or like the post that holds up the basketball hoop and broke my hand out of like rage from losing. So like, I hear what you're saying. I think it persists to this day for me. Like I don't lose well. And I mean, I'm much better, obviously, whatever, all these years later, but like, I do think that I still avoid certain things for fear of failure. And I think I could really use, some last place finishes and, some fucking rejection,
Oh yeah, it sucks though. I mean, no matter what, it sucks. Like SmartAss was such a feat, and what an amazing place I come to in my life from this Uncut Productions thing and being all of these horrible, all of my titles I had when I was a kid, and then being in corporate America and having like blossomed as this person that was, working in the nosebleed section of the corporate world in this country. I mean, right. I really got there. I didn't have a position that really warranted me to be there, but my hustle was such that I ended up in those rooms with all those people. And I was, I shouldn't have been there, but I was, and I learned so much from that experience. And then coming to like being able to make a movie that I wrote and directed in LA with and my lead is Joey King, who's taking off. And I was so intimidated by so much of my cast because I had never been here. I had worked with these theater actors in Philly. I had no idea. Right. I had no idea it was intense. And I, like I said, I hadn't been a part of the creative world in any professional capacity.
Right.
Ever. And so, whereas Mark had been a part of the theater since he could breathe, I hadn't had any of that. And right. I mean, I don't know if you can see the intimidation on the screen. I don't think you can. I think you can see how green the script was and how I needed to remake the beginning of the movie. But I don't think I failed it. I just so having done all that and getting that far and then having it not be received it's a brutal failure to me.
Of course.
And people are like, no, it's not a failure. Look at what you did. I was like, no, this is legit a failure. This feels like a failure.
Right.
But I mean, I still have a movie on Netflix. I still have a movie out there with one of the biggest, young actors right now. And
yeah, she's everywhere.
Oh, she's such and she's one of the coolest people I've ever met.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's really one of the coolest people I've ever met. And so her family, her mother, they're just next level awesome. And anybody that gets to spend any time with that kid, with that woman now is just so lucky.
Right.
She's really phenomenal. And but the sting of it, and I get knocked down. So Street Fighter, I get the full pounce of it. And get hit back. And it takes a lot to crawl back into my next script.
Right.
To get the courage to pull it together and believe in myself.
Talk about that. Like what does that look like for you? Like how do you push through self-doubt? Like how do you convince yourself, that you're good enough, that the thing is good enough? Like how do you do that?
I don't know if I convince myself that I'm good enough or that I think that just comes and goes. It's almost like a wave. I don't really control whether I believe in myself or not. I do control whether I work.
Right.
So if I feel like I'm not worth anything and I don't have any, so for example, writing this action movie, I mean, at some point, I forget where it was, in some point during it, I'm like, oh my God, I suck. I can't do anything. And I attack myself.
Right.
And I was like, well, you got to figure it out, don't you? So keep trying. And I remember when I was trying to get because the way that I write is I tend to sit down, find a bunch of people on the page, ask them what the hell they're doing and follow them. And it's not I don't recommend it because you end up in you've got a shattered glass situation,
right,
where you have to then create a story that you have to find your vein of the mountain to get to actual gold. And right now you've got a shattered piece of glass and you have to find that vein. And can get really hard, and it got really hard a few weeks ago, and I just went in and scrapped. I was like, simple. You got to go back to simple. You're running in circles because you're trying to make it too complex. But some days you just write to go through motions, and right.
So, and you're just when you're doing what you're describing, you're writing screenplay pages, or are you writing like long form? Like, do you ever
I write screen? screenplay pages. The only time I stop writing if I'm working on a screenplay, the only time I stop, I used to do it differently when I was much younger. The only time I stop working on the screenplay or the series or whatever it is if I go into a Word document and I start asking them questions.
Right. So so when you're following them, you're literally writing what's happening into a document.
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing the script.
Right.
And then when I don't know who they are, sometimes
with
like
no outline, with you're just going.
Every time I outline, it's terrible.
Right.
I outline and I'm like, why did I do this? I'm never going to listen to it.
Right.
I'm never going to everything, because out of nowhere, for me, the way that I write is if I outline, I just won't pay attention to it. The nice thing about this script was it was based on a script that was already written that I had to like keep in that vein.
Okay.
So I kind of knew like this character needed to be like, appear and then go through some trial and then, and have to fight this guy and then have to triumph at the end. But that's not like that was what as action movie, right?
Sure.
So it was kind of set up for me. But yeah, I mean, on my heart projects, shit's crazy. I wrote the most proud I am of any script was the very first one I really finished outside of the one I made in New York. And it's called The Hatter's Wives. And I had that story for a long time. And back then I wrote like not longhand, but it was like I wrote prose. I would write pages of prose. And I remember I used to lay in my bathtub in Philly and just listen because I had no idea where anybody was. I'd ask them where they were, what's the next scene? And then it would come to me. And I crafted this crazy, complex movie about a woman that was missing. And I didn't know where she was. And I didn't know if she was alive or dead. And she's dictating how the entire story plays out. And then all of a sudden on page 90, she showed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's fun for me too, because I mean, my life becomes somewhat exciting.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're lost. You're lost in another
I'm
world.
Lost.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get very angry. Sometimes it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But when it's not frustrating, it's exhilarating.
So how did you learn? I mean, when you wrote the first one, now you wrote the second one, like how did you know what to do? Like, did you read other screenplays? Like, how did you know how to write something? I mean, I know you said the first one's completely unwatchable, so maybe it's not like the benchmark of,
no, we weren't going to talk about that. I don't even remember what it is.
But
really.
like, how the fuck, I don't know. Like, how did you know what to do?
It's a really good question.
I mean, because like I kind of know what to do. I've read these books and shit, and I've read some screenplays. Like I kind of know what to do, but I still don't really know what to do. It's like, how the fuck do you know what to do? You just do it.
I didn't. I told you, like for a decade, I did for a decade. So the first play I did when Mark and I and Ben got together, we did a thing called Triptych where it was 3 plays. We each had our own play. And my mother has my whole life. She's fantastic. She has asked me to kill her when she goes senile my entire life. And she had broken up with a boyfriend and she was a mess for like 4 months. Oh my God, this single woman, she can't be single. She's devastating. And she just convinces me I have to find her heroin. I have to kill her. And she said it to me the other day. It got really bad there for a little while. And I wrote a play about 2 twins that died. And the day that they signed a contract to kill their mother was coming up, and they convinced their sister to do it for them.
Wow.
Because they're ghosts. But I loved a few movies.
Right.
And I loved banter, and I don't know. I just didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And I remember I had this one friend, and he had his mother come watch a rehearsal. Oh, you know how I learned? This is how I learned. I forgot. And I owe this all to I will teach this over and over again. When I started this company with these guys, the one guy not Mark, the other guy pulled me aside and said, no matter what, you have to act like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And I said, what? don't know what I'm doing. You have to act like it. You have to act like it. And I was like, yeah, okay. Because I'm really good at listening to people.
Right.
And I sat down with this. So I had an older actress. She was like in her 70s. She was amazing. I had Bria B. I had Keith Canallen, who's like won so many awards. And Bria B's here. And she's an incredible actress. And I had, a girl from, she was graduating and, she was really good in school. And I sat down with these actors and I looked them all dead in the eyes. And I said, I've written this and I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. And they looked at me and I said, are you on board? And they said, we're on board. I said, okay, let's figure this out.
Nice. Wow.
And
okay.
I just listened to them and I watched and and then when I started making films, oh God, I learned the hard way. I made a film and I showed it at a bar to on a film screening night because we used to have them. It was so adorable in Philly.
Right.
And I could feel that I was just trapping these people and boring the shit out of them. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I just learned by that. And then I became the opposite. I would edit everything way too fast. It was really hard to follow stuff because I never wanted to bore people.
So you just cut a million times.
It was just made it completely insane. I mean, if you've seen Eye of the Tiger, you would know.
Right.
It's it's unwatchable at times. But I'll tell you, it's a brilliant unwatchable movie.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it. I mean, I haven't seen it in probably 10 years.
I found it on. I found it recently.
I can't find it anywhere. Yeah, it's. Oh, did you upload it?
Oh yeah, it was because you couldn't find it because we hid it.
Okay.
And I watched it recently with a 24-year-old girl, and she was complete. She understood it.
Right.
And maybe the people can catch things now that they couldn't catch then. And I don't know, but you should. I mean, just because you know everybody, it'll be more interesting for you. But it was before its time. I mean, it was we were taking stabs at reality television.
Right. In what 2008, something like that?
Well, no, in 2005 or 6. Yeah. It was had just entered onto the scene and we were throwing grenades at it.
Right.
And I had friends for a year in that editing room. My editor and I, we would sit next to each other in my apartment every second that I wasn't working and we would edit and we had best friends in these two characters, Katie and Tiffany. Best friends.
Right.
Did I ever tell you that I went to see Corey Haim in New York?
No.
I mean, in Canada.
No.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We took the script to get Corey Haim on board.
Holy shit.
And we met his mom. We went out to dinner with him and his mom.
Wow. How'd you get connected with Corey Haim?
Rocky was a good little producer.
Huh.
She's a badass.
I didn't know she was involved with that.
Well, she was in and out, right?
Okay.
So I did the play with the Tina Yothers Army. Then the play was so successful that we did we had a second coming of the play, and then I adapted it to screen. And Rocky came in, and we tried to pitch the script for a little bit. And I was it took me a year to get the art museum.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just part of the stuff we were working on.
Right.
That was brutal. We put people through it on that one.
On Eye of the Tiger.
Oh my God. I can't even they hated me. Bria hated me.
You filmed was it a 2-week shoot or was it way longer?
It was a 2 weeks shoot. No, it was a year-long shoot with those two girls in the apartment.
Right.
All the stuff, but everything at the art museum was a 2-week shoot.
Right.
But it was sweltering hot out there. And it wasn't like we had a decent accommodations for anybody. We had a shitty, it was, no, it was wrong.
Were you paying people?
No, I didn't pay money. Our sound person, I cannot believe you can hear the movie.
Right.
Our sound person was a theater lighting girl. What? We had no business making that movie.
That's what I don't understand. So, I mean, maybe that's more the question. How the fuck did you get so many people to just do shit because they wanted to? I mean, that's it, because they wanted to. And there's passion.
It was passion. And we had and Mark and I would fight and we were very dramatic. And, it was, everybody wanted to filming. people weren't, I also would say this, not everybody was able to make a film like they can now.
Sure.
Like we had, even though it was just DV, a mini DV, and it wasn't anything special, we were some of the first people that were out there just making crazy art.
Right.
And we just were on it, and we were doing it one after the other. And I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know anything about anything. And I just freaking learned.
Right.
I was like, I don't know what Final Cut is, but let's learn it.
Right.
And from there, we just learned. It's unfortunate though, because people that do really well in this world are experts at a thing.
Sure.
And I never became, during that period, I was just a jack of all trades. We did everything.
It's funny. I think that like, I've always had like this, and I don't know if this just comes from upbringing or whatever, but like, I've always had this like huge concern with, stability, and like, I gotta be making money. Is this am I making money doing this thing, or is this thing leading me to money? And I think like, and I've also never been like completely homeless. I mean, like I've like surfed on some couches for a few months. Like I've had some dark times, but I've never really been like completely 100% rock bottom, down and out. And I think the combination of those two things was a hindrance to ever really like dive in fully to exactly what you're describing. Just like doing shit that you want to be doing because you want to be doing it. And you're not really concerned about, the next meal or the rent or whatever, because that's just going to come if it comes and when it comes.
Well, see, I get it really, really intimately what you said, because I was homeless of my own accord, and I know what starving feels like. And I am absolutely scared to death to not have stability. And for the first time ever, when I got into corporate America, I had stability. And I didn't know how to let that go. And I overstayed my welcome by 7 years because of it.
Right.
But because I had that stability out of all of us.
This whole time that all this was going on, you had the corporate?
Oh yeah, I worked 2 full times. Oh yeah. Oh, full time, nonstop.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked during the day, and I wasn't very good at my job. So I got away with a lot. Sometimes I wrote scripts there. I mean, as they were getting rid of me at the very end, I wrote all these children's books while I was sitting in this cubicle because they wouldn't let me out. Wow. They put me in cubicle prison to try and get me to be a good little girl, and it didn't work.
When was that? So like, all of your uncut productions, all of like the Sweetbread Studios time was you were working this corporate job. When did you leave that job?
2002.
Okay.
12.
2012.
2012.
Right.
2002 is when I got it.
Right.
And I started everything in 2012. My life changes drastically on the twos. So 2002 is when all of that stuff that gave me the eye twitch happened. And in 2012 was when I got fired.
Got it. And then you got fired, and you stayed you were in Philly for like a year or two after that before you like made the big LA move, right? The official one.
Yeah, well, I had 4 months off, and I learned how to cook. That was very interesting. And I started I got into artwork at that period too. I started doing a lot of artwork and painting and sculpting, and I got really involved in that whole world. And somehow I wasn't as afraid of money during that period, but I had bought a house and I had rental income.
Right.
So I had a little bit of security in that. And I just wasn't as worried. And then I got a job on Amish Mafia, and I've been in the entertainment loop of having jobs and not having jobs ever since.
Right. And it becomes significantly less scary once you've lived it for a couple of years.
Does it? Like, does it?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
You're so brave. You're so brave having children. I don't know.
Dude.
Every waking minute, I try and think about how I'm going to buy a property or buy an apartment building. Or,
right. I know.
So for some passive income, so that when things go crazy, or if I end up getting, like, say, I can get a movie made, or,
right.
I wasn't paid for SMARTASS. They paid for my housing and they paid my expenses, but like, I didn't make money those years.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
That's
though.
part of the deal. Yeah, that's part of the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always had such like a unique aesthetic, like in your production design work, like in your writing. Like I'm thinking of that one script that you sent me. I can't even remember the name of it. The fucking crazy shit is happening on the farm, and the parallel universe, whatever is happening. Anyway, you're very singular in your vision. I think. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No idea.
No, it's idea. There's like pigs and shit. There's like
American Wizard in Brooklyn. Yeah. Okay.
Insane.
That's okay.
I mean, that is fucking insane. Like you write some wild and really original shit.
Yeah.
And so, what was it like to make SMARTASS and have that be? Because to me, like I watched that movie. I appreciated that movie. It's well done. It's well written. It's well directed. The performances are good. It's good. It's a good movie. It doesn't feel like yours. It's not.
It's not. Never wanted to make that movie ever. I never wanted to write that movie. I got beat the fuck up hard by this shitty producer in New York. I was crying. I was like close to him. I was crying. I remember I was on his like bathroom floor in some rented mansion outside of New York, and I'm in tears, and I'm just like, I can't do, because corporate America, in order to be that productive, you have to be in pain,
right?
Like it was brutal. I talk about it like it's this amazingly like rainbows and sparkles decade, but I was miserable all the fucking time.
Right.
Because I just hated being there. I was somebody's like attaché, and I fucking hated that. And I just was in the wrong world. And I knew what I was doing it for, because I couldn't be without stability. Anyway, I try and sell Eye of the Tiger, and this producer doesn't like it. I take it like his seminar or whatever. He doesn't like it. He likes drunk spelling, but he doesn't like Eye of the Tiger. And I became really good friends with him, and he's like, "Well, okay, write me a script." He goes, "Okay, fine, write me a script. Give me a script by like February 12th or something, right?" It's like December or November. And I had that movie that I'd always like been in love with, and it gave me a reason to write it, because we had started this conversation. Somebody was waiting for it. Somebody gave me a date. And I wrote what I still believe to this day was a brilliant script, was a brilliant first draft of an idea. Brilliant first draft. And he gave it to his readers. I do that with the air quotes, who I also was friends with, his like partner that was the reader. And they eventually gave me feedback saying like that I didn't have any character development, and all this stuff that was just the opposite of what my problem is. Right. And I was like, yeah, well, okay, thanks, guys. I never thought it would be up your alley anyway. And I gave a very terse, very quick response to the email, and they read it. They actually read it, right? And then they gave me feedback, which was in opposition to the first feedback they had given me. So I knew I was being played. And when I went to talk to this guy, he was like, before I realized they had never read it, when I actually believed him, he had said to me, well, you just, what do you know about 18th century hat making? And what do you know about like extreme wealth and all this stuff and da 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 da. He's like, you need to write what you know. And
wait, is this the Hatter's Wives? This is the script that you wrote? Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Eye of the Tiger, Thrill of the Fight. There was no script for that, right?
You do have to watch it. You'll get such a kick out of it. It's such a straight up like shit show.
You were just recording shit and having people fucking improv. I mean, it was like the Ruggerios, basically.
I was like
right?
totally Ruggerios. I was getting them so drunk. Oh my god, I was getting Chris D'Agostino so fucking drunk. I mean, you could see it. They're brilliant though.
Right.
They're brilliant comedians, and they're brilliant timing. And like if I feel like I've failed anything, I failed these great people that had no names at the time. And I could have, had I been a little better or a little more successful, could have elevated them to the place where I really believe they deserve to be. Amy Schaefer, I mean, Ish Klein. She's the Katie, and I don't know what her name is now. She might have changed it. She's a very interesting girl. She's a poet. I mean, I just wish I could have elevated them and their careers a little bit because they're so funny.
Well, you do what you can.
Oh yeah, I mean, right. Seriously.
You do what you can. Don't fucking flog yourself over that. So this guy says to you, what do you know about what do you know about hats?
Yeah, what do you know about hats? You don't know anything about hats. What do you know about poisoning? You don't know shit. Right? What do you know? So in 2 weeks, I wrote this story about when I was sold as a runaway.
Right.
And I'm like, it's makeable. You know, I had been writing with Tony Luke. Tony Luke was like trying to get a rewrite of a vampire versus vampires versus werewolves movie at the time, and I was friends with him. And I'm like,
Tony Luke, man.
I was like, the scene was amazing. I was like, Tony, we could come up with a new a big bad. We can do it. And he's walking around and he's like, Jenna, you're giving me a headache. You're giving me a headache. And he sits down in a chair and he goes, Angels. And I looked at him and I said, Clockwork Orange. I can write that script. I can write that script. I can write Angels. I can write that.
Right.
And I wanted to write like these, and I did. I ended up writing Guardians, but Tony didn't like my writing and Tony didn't really gel. We're so different.
Sure. Yeah.
So then I write SMARTASS and I'm like, I write this fucking movie, whatever. And I let it go. Right. And then Rocky wants to make Guardians. She wants to quit her job at House of Cards. She does quit her job at House of Cards and she wants to go make Guardians. She wants to pitch it, but that's a big pitch. It's a series. It's a massive pitch. We were unprepared, and God bless this woman and her bravery. Just like, I'm going out to LA and we're going to make this series. And I was like, all right, let's go. I'm a dumbass. I'm like, yeah, sure. And we brought one of our, who ended up being the producer. He was working on Angels, the Guardians with us, and it wasn't going anywhere. And he was frustrated, and I knew I was going to lose him. And I was like, hey, I have this script about me. And I threw him SMARTASS, and him and his brother made it. Got it. And then, it's definitely not, it's so not what my worlds are so different. And, you really have to listen to your heart sometimes in this. But I wouldn't have that movie if that dude didn't, tell me that I had to write what I know, because they couldn't have made Hatter's Wives. Right. And Hatter's Wives has a market, but it's not the market that a SMARTASS would be, or they thought it would be. Like, unfortunately, you're not going to get to make the movies that you want to make until you've proved successful in making the movies that they want you to make, basically. Or you've made the movies that you want to make on your own and garnered enough attention that you're able to make, that it's sellable. And I met some really, really impressive guys, mostly guys here in LA that are like, getting their movies made. They're finding money, and they're not from money. Like, they're just doing it. They're just like raging. They're really good at the talk. Right. They're really good at the LA talk. And I'm blown away by them. I'm impressed with them. I know I've got the creativity, and I know I have the originality, and I know I have the gumption and the talent. I don't have that talk. Yeah. The talk's tough. The talk's tough. I find myself feeling out of place a lot out here. And feeling like, very quickly stereotyped for what I'm not that far removed from, I guess, No, and we're not. And I think it's funny. It's just like, if you can keep them hooked, and keep talking, and really people love to know who's interested in what in this person. But if you got to keep that train rolling, right? It can't be like one person's interested and then blah blah blah. You have to be like this name and that name and throw this name out, and this person's interested, and then they also are close to this person, this person, this person. Fucking crazy though, dude. I don't have that in me, dude. I don't have that. I just don't have that level of fucking name droppery. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe this is just whatever. I'm learning that it's a little more than name dropping. You are literally building a web. and you're building a web in front of someone's face that they can't see through. And you're the spider in the middle of the web. And you have to build that web large. And even if it's based in total bullshit, even if the fringes fall away, because half of these people, the web doesn't end up happening. They fall out of favor with a girlfriend, or so-and-so isn't interested anymore. You've got to build this web. And it's storytelling. It's, it's really, and that's not the type of storyteller I am, which also has led me to believe I'm not a good storyteller at times. Like it's been a brutal self-attack that I can't weave these webs for people. But really, that's what I've started to see it as. And I can almost envision it when people are doing it. And those who are good at it, I'm just like, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. I have a sense of jealousy, but there's this just bigger sense of awe of like, what a talent. What a skill set you've figured out. That's the skill set that gets you the people with the money starry-eyed. And also, you have to be an artist. Like if you want to be the Bob Dylan at the back of the room that's on, wearing shades and doesn't want to talk to anybody, you better have that music to be speaking for itself.
Right.
Because you can be him, you can be that person, you can be that. Like I think Billy Bob Thornton, when he talked, the producer that made me write SMARTASS, or pushed me to write SMARTASS, he made Sling Blade, and he met with Billy Bob. According to the stories, because I only know it secondhand, is that he hated producers and he didn't want to talk to them. And he wasn't anybody big. He had just made a short film.
That's all he had ever done before Sling Blade, right? It was his very first thing, yeah.
But he was brilliant. But his brilliance was, they could see it.
Right.
His brilliance was there. And, he's, I don't know what he became or what he was like after, or what kept him from wanting to talk to producers. He must have changed since then. He's done so much stuff.
Sure.
But, his artwork, his art spoke loudly enough.
Right.
And, there's ways to do that now. What's the movie Insta-Famous everybody's telling me to watch?
I have no idea. I feel like I'm 400 years old, dude. I'm so out of the fucking loop of everything.
Well, it's where you cobble together a false following based on non-truths online.
Right.
You create your, we could probably do it as artists. I think it's just a matter of being good at that game. And again, it's another game. It's another web that you're weaving to get everybody stuck in.
Right.
And, the stickier you are, the bigger your web, the more everybody gets caught up in you.
Right.
So
let's talk about writing a little bit. And why I can't do it, I guess. I don't think
that you can't do it. I think that it's really nice when you have somebody, like, you need to pick some people and be like, hey, I'm writing this thing. Would you read it? And could you give me a date to give me? Because I do that for people. I'm like, all right, I'm going to read your thing and I'm going to tell you that I need the next thing.
Oh, right. You read my thing. I did write that other thing. I did complete that other thing. That's right. And you did read that. That's right. Yeah, I have written things.
You need to just grab people and say, look, I need you.
I need you to fucking hold me accountable is the thing.
Yes.
I need people to hold me accountable. But it's like, that's like this trust and vulnerability thing. And also it feels like not only do I have to make myself vulnerable, but I also am asking you for something. And like, I don't know. I don't ask for help. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to ask for a favor. It's hard to do that.
Well, you want to be manipulative about it. You find an actor that really wants to act, and you like that's. That's another way to do it. Is like you find somebody that is not even being manipulative, really, but it's just it's how we do it sometimes. You find somebody you know is going to be interested in a character and get really behind it, and then they'll give you sometimes really great feedback.
Right.
If they're intelligent, if they're an intelligent actor, sometimes you can get really great feedback and you're both feeding each other's art.
Right.
It's soul food for both, like for everybody at the end of the day. And I think that's, going back to how I created so much stuff, and it was all soul food.
Right.
Right? We fed people constantly with feelings of like accomplishment and being part of a group and like that feeling, man, that'll make you move mountains.
Right.
It's that stuff. So, and I haven't built it here. I keep saying I don't know how. It's just a different vibe. But that's how you got to give them something, and then you'll get back.
Right. That's a good point.
Right. I mean, I don't know. It's really difficult.
I don't know if it's because I'm so like I don't want to be asked to do a favor. Because I'm like, fuck you, pay me, you know? But like, and I feel like I don't have enough, you know, I have you. There are a couple people, you know, that I have that I could ask and would read my shit, you know, and would, you know, hold me accountable for, you know, what I'm asking them to do. But, you know, other people, it's like, I can think of a couple mutual friends that we have, mutual acquaintances that we have, and I would not want to fucking ask them for a favor because I wouldn't want to owe them one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't look at it as like that. I really don't. I'm not really good at like, I'm not really good at that. I think it's a very Italian. I'm gonna be, you know.
It's fine. Just fucking just be real.
It's a very Italian thing. Well, I mean, it's just like, you know, oh, I'm going to do this for you. You got to do something for me. But it's like, you know, creativity is a little different of a bird.
Right.
If like, I know that when I just ask people to read a script because it's a script I'm working on, I'm really asking something of them. And that gets tedious. But if I'm asking somebody to read a script because I want them to come on board and maybe help write, produce, or create a package with me, then I'm giving somebody an opportunity.
I think that's the exact thing. You just hit the nail on the head, though. It's that the mindset that I'm entrenched in is not one that lends itself to this world. You know, I'm like stuck in a way in that modality of thinking, you know, of like, well, fucking, you know, exactly what you just said.
Well, but you did give back. Like you came and worked with me.
Of course.
I didn't pay anything.
Of
but
course.
like, I mean, it's just a matter of give and take to the best of your ability. I don't really know how to do it here yet. It seems like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but I haven't figured it out. I mean, I spend a lot of time with Mark still, and we have each other, but even that's, you know, sometimes that's not enough. You need to enlist people.
Right.
But here's the thing out here too. Like everybody didn't have their own idea in Philly. Everybody has their own idea.
Right. It was a lot easier to get people on board.
Oh my God, it was so much easier. You start talking about your ideas here. Everybody's got an idea. And sometimes you need to listen to what other people have to say. I mean, I get steamrolled all the time by those guys that like build that can talk it.
Right.
I'm just here.
Right. Right.
Here I am listening to you. I'm kind of losing interest. And I think you're just using me to like work out your pitch for somebody that is going to be more valuable.
Right.
But you know, and you were in acting class, weren't you? Didn't you take some acting classes?
I've taken a lot of, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's ripe for people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd shoot. That is like, because if I was in an acting class, I could probably whip up a good amount of people to do stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's that like fucking enterprising thing though, you know, it's like, that's where I find myself getting in my own way and overthinking that, you know, that process of like, how I'm going to, you know, there was one guy and I was like, I'm going to write something and I want this guy to be in it with me. And then, I didn't write it, but I did talk to him about it. And I did have the idea, and like his enthusiasm reflects exactly what you're suggesting, which is that you could very easily get people on board with, with belief in yourself and with, real, authentic,
or excitement about it. I see, for me, sometimes it's more excitement about the idea of it.
Right.
Like I got a bunch of people on board on American Wizard.
Right.
I just couldn't get to the next level once, and then I couldn't get money for it. And maybe the script wasn't right yet. I don't know. I don't know what happened, or it was so out there that nobody really understood it. I remember the YouTube meeting I had was just an absolute disaster, but they didn't know who they were.
You met with YouTube.
Yeah,
that's
it was
cool.
It was a disaster.
But still, you met with YouTube.
I had no idea. They were like, well, they were pissed because they had just bid for like a serious drama at Sundance, and the movie went with a lower bid because they didn't want to be associated with YouTube.
Right.
And YouTube's butt was sore, and they didn't want to be known as YouTube.
Right.
And I had written a script for all of their stars.
Right.
And they couldn't see it.
That's crazy.
It was great.
No, that's perfect. That's a perfect place for it.
Yeah, it's a shame. And then I thought about doing it as an animation, but like that's a lot of money and a lot of time. And I wasn't so in love that I was willing to drop everything and go to you have to be in love with the idea. It's not even, I don't know if it's belief in yourself, because I don't think belief in myself is what made all that stuff happen. I think it's just belief in I wanted to do it. Right. I wanted to make, if anything, if I die before some of these scripts get made, I'm most sad that they didn't get to have life.
Right.
It's more about them than it is about me. Now, when I'm in a meeting for money, then it's all about belief in myself.
Right.
100%.
How did you get to pitch YouTube?
Oh,
See, that's
Hunter
the shit I don't understand. Like, how do you fucking get into a room?
Well, so SmartAss got my guys into WME and CAA.
Okay.
So money got them, and my talent got them into rooms, and then they were able to. And also, they're from the 1%. So half the people they grew up with are working at these places, I mean, people from CAA that were newbies at the time have read my scripts and stuff like that, but they weren't in a position to do anything. You know what I mean? Like they had just gotten the jobs and stuff like that.
Sure.
So for a while there, I had that in, and if I complete, with the one I just completed, even though it's like a $60 million movie, if not more, I might have those meetings start to pop back up again.
Right.
And it just kind of fell off. And then we do things for money and we're just gone. And then the guy, my producer that I'm closest to ended up like building a life, marriage and kids and stuff.
Got it.
And that changed that storyline.
Got it.
And I'm not like, I don't attack this world the way you need to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if like making another short is a way to go potentially, or just having another calling card, something. But then I feel like,
well, to me, the reason I haven't done that, and I totally agree that you should do that.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it because I don't have any single short that I have enough passion about that I would go through and make.
You also have a feature though. I mean, you've proven it. You've already done it. So like,
yeah, but I haven't done something that like it has that, like I said, you have to, if you want to be in the back of the room and not play to everybody, you have to have the song.
Right.
And I don't have it yet. So I have to do that. I just don't, no short film is talking to me.
Right.
No short is screaming, make me. And none of my scripts, none of my stories have anything in them that could be done in a shorter format. I mean, maybe Wee Willie Winky, but I don't even know.
Right.
But so if you have something, then
It's
yeah.
a fucking fantastic title, by the way.
I really need to make it.
I don't think I've read that.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. It's about Mark and I.
Right. I think I've heard it, but
it's about Mark and I, and it's interesting. But I don't. Here's the other problem I've found in LA. Ready? I don't know any actors.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
Very weird.
But have you been to a lot of theater in LA?
No.
It's mostly pretty bad.
Yeah, I've seen one play here.
Yeah, I mean, and the actors that I know that are good won't party with me because they're huge.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, or I haven't written a good enough thing to like convince them.
Sure.
I don't know. I think those are all excuses. I think I'm just making a bunch of excuses, and that's disgusting. So,
I mean, that's what I do for hours at a time on this in this format and to other people. But yeah, I
think you're right. I think well, for me, it's not belief in myself. It's belief. It's love and obsession with the project first.
Right.
And then once I have that, belief in myself will like makes me pick up the phone.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just getting out of your own way, really, and just like having that first. It's just work. It's work. I mean, that's all. It's just work.
Yeah, it's just you're gonna believe in yourself. You're not gonna believe in yourself. The tide's gonna come in, and the moon's gonna shine, and some bitch is going to tell you that Mercury's in fucking retrograde for the 50,000th time.
I heard that today.
You know, oh my God. I swear to God, because I've been in such a bitchy mood all week. I'd be like, if somebody else tells me the goddamn Mercury's in rip their fucking head off. But you just got to do the work, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter how you feel or what's happening, or, you know, you can use the COVID or the president or, you know, your mom or PTSD, whatever it is you can just keep running yourself into a hole, and you're welcome to get up and walk away from the table, but you got to put your ass back down in that seat.
Right.
You get up, walk around in a circle, sit back down.
Right.
Bang your head against a wall, take a shower, sit back down. Like whatever it is, you got to keep doing it. And we need to, and because we don't have any agents running around with our stuff, we need to take it to the step further and do the other work of, like, you know, the real work,
getting it out there and all that stuff.
Yeah. Because writing's one thing, but really like having respect enough for the project.
Yeah.
I think you might benefit a little bit by taking you out of this scenario and say, it's not me that I have, you know, belief in, and it's not me that I, you know, have, you know, I guess it's just belief. It's the project.
Right.
And let the project have its own legs.
It's also, it's funny because, you know, I could say all that shit about, oh yeah, the last 4 months and what was happening in October and this and that, and when I was actually writing all this fuck. The only thing I haven't done in the last 4 months is actually open the laptop and start writing. Like, that's the only fucking thing. I just haven't opened it, and instead I've just talked about it and been like, why can't I do this? Oh, it's because of this thing and that. It's like, it's fucking lunacy. Because the only way I'm going to do it is if I do it.
And the funniest thing is, you've built it up into this huge thing, and it's just not. You're going to sit down and you're going to be like, oh my God, why did I waste so much time not coming back to this?
You know, and it's probably like because the fucking scene that I was writing too, I didn't know exactly where it was going, and then I got scared probably, and then I created a 4-month narrative surrounding why I couldn't finish it. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, but I got all these other movies that I just can't write yet because I got to fucking finish this thing first. But my I mean, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah, but you're going to end up in that situation all the time. Like, you're going to end up in that situation all the time, and you've got to let. I don't know that I don't actually know that this advice is any good. What I do with that. So what I do with that, like I told you, I read that script today, and I got to page 88, and there was no ending, and I had rewritten that script for 2 years straight. I mean, really fucking wrote hard.
So you wrote a first draft to page 88.
billion drafts. And this last draft I wrote, I must have gone back in and I got to page 88. And I think it got too hard again. And then I started a new project.
Got it.
But I went back and I read this morning, like I read on my phone. I read to like page 88 and you want to know why? This goes right back to what we were just talking about, other people.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I was with that kid in Mississippi and we started looking at this movie I had, West Texas, and how I thought he would like it. And I'm just trying to get somebody, the movie comes up and it wants somebody to like it.
Right.
Right. So like and I learned how to do this when I very first wrote Hatter's Wives. I had a bike messenger boyfriend. He was such a miserable shit. And he never gave me any philosophy. He was such a dickhead. And I was struggling between Hatter's Wives and the movie I had since I was 15 years old, which is about women murderers during World War I in Hungary. And I didn't know which one to write. And he said, why don't you have the character describe you? And I was like, what? What? So stupid. And I went to pho, which is the only food I eat in the whole world. And I sat down I got smart, which is what I call when people eat by themselves in public. I think that they're all really way more intelligent than everybody else when you eat alone in public. And so I got smart and I sat down at pho and Kevin Costner, that was the name of my waiter because I couldn't understand his real name. And that's his favorite actor. I wrote this, I started writing, the characters started describing me and God, they were fucking mean. Oh my God, they were so mean. They're all mean to me. All my characters when I play this game are mean to me. And she just called me an idiot over and over again. She said, you're such a fool. You're such a fool. You're such a fool. I'm right here. I'm right here. And you want to write this story you've had for how long? And you can't even hear that character's voice. And I'm right here. And I said, okay, I'll write your story. And it was amazing. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had writing.
That's a brilliant technique.
Right? And this idiot bike messenger is the one that gave it to me. Oh my God.
That's genius.
Try it. It's really fascinating.
I will eviscerate myself and then that'll be the character. That's fucking amazing.
Oh, she was brutal. She was so mean.
Right.
But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just her describing me because I stopped doing that eventually and started going in and just saying, where are you? Right. What are you doing? What's going on with you? And sometimes they tell me and sometimes they go on weird rants. And, because you need to know your character's backstory to understand what built them. So it's like an acting technique, I think. Totally. But I do it for writing to find out what the fuck is happening in a world that I don't understand.
So when you do that, I mean, you're having this dialogue. Are you having it like on a paper? Like, are you writing these things out, or is this literally all just stuff that's happening inside your head?
No, it's way better if I write it.
Okay.
Now when I do it, because now I haven't really been very impressive lately as far as like my spending time and actually thinking, which is what 90% of what we really should be doing as artists is just listening. But now I just go into a Word document and I write me, I write Jay or whoever I am, and then I ask a question and then I just hit return and I write their first initial and then their response. Huh. And sometimes it's so super boring and there's nothing, but like, I mean, I think West Texas was wild. I mean, it was wild.
I don't know if I've read that script.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, that's because it never got right.
Or maybe
I never got it right. So I never shared it really.
Right.
Like it never got there. And I was getting there when I wrote it. And I just got waylaid. And then I felt like I needed to do something that was more reasonable and more, Hunter, he wanted me something more mainstream. So I started writing my Riverdale story. Okay. Which is, about two girls with their fathers missing and wanted for murder in a small town.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's cool because the younger daughter's a sociopath.
Right. Yeah.
So the younger sister. So that's cool, but not really, but kind of, sure.
West Texas, I don't know if I've read it, but I think I know it so well just from even a few conversations with you and having you, excitedly describe it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's cool.
Script's a mess.
It's cool to hear like more, and I would like to like hear even more about like what your process is just in terms of like new ideas. I mean, sorry, I'm fading a little bit. It's been a long week, but
we can wrap it up. I steal them sometimes. So I stole one recently from Mark Dahl. I didn't steal it.
Well, you steal an idea from a friend, or you have a conversation and something. But like, how does it start? What's the seed for you usually?
Well, the last one, obviously the action one, they gave me a script. So I started. I have a friend who's an actress, and she had an idea for a movie, really like basic idea, and I was like, "I'll write that with you." And I started writing, and it morphed into completely something different. And I haven't finished that one. I have to go back to that one. And Mark Dahl had a brilliant idea for a series, and I loved it, and I said I want to work on that with you, and I wrote a pilot, and then I wrote another pilot, I rewrote it, and now we're on the third draft, because it's what it takes to get it right. And it's a brilliant idea, but I'm working on that with Mark, and I'm working on that with her. And then I started talking about West Texas, and I have a call about that, I think tomorrow. And I love her. That I wanted that movie so bad to tried so hard, but maybe I can get people excited about West Texas again, and that'll be my next one.
I mean, that's the thing. The scripts never go anywhere. Now you just have all these commodities.
They age. Disaster the Musical, that was the play that aged. I couldn't really do that now, and I don't know if American Wizard in Brooklyn will hold up.
Not maybe now that we're in a new administration and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but that takes a rewrite, right?
Right, exactly.
You want to bring it. The story's there mostly, and you can just bring it up to speed. But the world's changed a lot, and I'm old, and I have to readapt to like humor has changed and all of that. I mean, we were shameless,
right,
and it's just not funny anymore. Some of it.
Do you find yourself second guessing a lot of shit as a result of that? Do you think you second guess yourself as you're going in the process? Like, wait, this isn't funny anymore?
I think so. The only thing that I really second guess, I'm like, that's some dated ass reference.
Right, sure.
Like, that's not going to be. The kids aren't going to think that's funny. I remember Joey King did not want to make that Gremlins reference in SMARTASS. She's like, I don't even know what the fuck this is, right. And I was like, just say it and shut up. Like, just say it.
Right.
And but she did not want to make that Gremlins reference at all. And that stuff. But that's like minor stuff. I don't think so. I think I've come around a little bit. I think I started to second guess myself about like when we really hit the Offendables at their height post SMARTASS.
Right.
Everything was untouchable.
Right.
Everybody was offended. And I had just come from such a raw world of like equality and rawness. Like, if we can't call you out for your thing, then we don't see you.
Right.
Then I'm pretending I don't look at like how short you are, Dawn, or how big my nose is, or
right, exactly.
You're just gonna fucking not gonna pretend you don't see this.
Can we just be real about it? It exists. Like, let's not pretend that it's not there. Yeah, it's a good point.
So dancing into that world is proven to be a little interesting, because we used to be so intense with it, being from Philly.
Totally. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you're in LA, and God, everybody's offended. I mean, my voice offends people.
Right.
So it's different. Oh my God. I love that I can talk to you for this long about this. It's hilarious, but we should wrap up.
All right. Yeah.
I don't want to keep you on for that long.
No, I'm good. I'm good, actually. Yeah. I was just referencing that my brain is just not that functional, which is why I'm stumbling over questions. And it was just like taking me I was struggling to form that thought, but I still am curious about some things. So, but if you want to go,
I'm fine. No, I'm fine. Yeah. Ask me.
Because I am really curious about like, okay, so those two ideas one came from Mark, one came from this other person. West Texas, where did that come from? Is that like...
So I do this a lot because of the way I write. I see a thing. I just see a thing. I saw a girl running in a cocaine field for her life.
Where'd you see it? In your
In my
mind?
head.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you doing? You were just sitting there?
I don't even remember. I can't even remember. I think I was looking for a new. You want to know how I came up with West Texas?
I do.
I was in Barmar. Well, because I just remembered. Sorry, I know you just asked that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I think I was telling myself that when I just asked that.
Yeah, totally.
I was in Bar Marmont, which makes me sound so bougie because there was like a little time, like when I first got to LA, when I was hanging out in all these places.
Sure.
So I'm in Bar Marmont with one of my producers from SmartAss, and I was, he was looking for the next project. I'm like, just make project. Like, let's come up with 5 ideas right now at the bar. I'm fucking half drunk. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And this one and this one. And I said a border fight between, some veterans and the cartels. And his eyes lit up. I was like, okay,
right.
I'll write that one. But I was like spitfiring dumbass ideas. I don't even know what half of them were, but I remember I said that. His eyes lit up, and I was like, okay, there's an idea that's got at least some interest from one person one night in the whole universe.
Right. And that's all it takes, really. Right? I mean, it just takes a spark in one other person's eye, basically.
Yeah, and then like American Wizard in Brooklyn, I was working on that I don't remember his name. He got in trouble for the Suicide Forest stuff, that influencer. I was working on I was working on his movie Airplane Mode, and I learned what influencers were and what their whole world was. And I was like, oh, I can write an influencer movie. And then Trump was like running. I don't even think Trump was running yet.
Right.
I think the idea of Trump was just starting to like bubble up to the surface. And I wrote American Wizard in Brooklyn. I was done that way before he even said he was going to run.
And so like, that's the same idea though, right? So like you're working with this influencer, and then you're like, I'm going to write this influencer, whatever it is. And then you're like, now I'm going to build this character. Now I'm going to have a conversation with this person. And then I'm going to see where this goes. And then you just get into the page and just start fucking writing what he's in a coffee shop. I mean, like, and if this is way too like reductively trite, forgive me. No.
I mean, it was what? I don't even understand that. I think that I just follow leads.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know that I'm even the best person. Like, I just know that that's how I do it.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
I know that when I've taken the Sundance class, they are like, well, what's the main driving force of this character? And sometimes I know, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I know what the theme is, and sometimes I don't. But I will say that having taken those classes, these questions now tickle the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. So they influence how the story is develops on the page,
and not in a way that holds you back.
Not really. If I were to try and force myself if I try and force one of my scripts to get in, if I need everybody at that point to get to the castle, like we all got to get to the castle right now, I'm done. I'm writing completely flat bullshit, and you read it and you're like, wow, that's as dull as it gets, right? Because I can't get people from A to B because I need to get to B, right? A has to be like worked out enough that B is the obvious place they're going. Like, I just can't, it just doesn't work for me. And whenever I try, I'm such a farce. It's like me trying to sell myself at a party in LA.
Yeah.
Full of shit.
Yeah,
literally full of shit. So that's my process. I mean, I know Mark's working on a story right now, and he is like watching all the scenes and really like plots it out and knows where the end and where he's going to be. And he looks at the middle and he knows where the middle needs to be. And I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. Like, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, it's weird. Like cause I've read some shit, to fucking save the cat. I've read a little bit of story. Like, I've read some shit, and I've done a lot of like, oh, what's the fucking, it's an 8-part story, like what, like all the story circles and all the fucking shit, right? But like, I haven't actually put it into practice very much, so I think that like I've built this architecture of like half of an architecture, because that's the thing, I don't fucking really know it in and out. So I have like a very rudimentary understanding of all of these theories of screenwriting.
Yeah, I think I do too. I think
I
mine's
just need
really
to fuck. I
rudimentary
just need
too.
to fuck. I just need to write is the thing.
But
though,
here's the
you
thing:
know?
you can always go back and fix it.
Right.
So you can always go like. So I know that the action movie that I wrote is a first draft.
Right.
I know that the emotional points are not as strong as they could be. That's fixable.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some of the arcs, although I did lay I laid some foundation for some of the arcs. I know that they can be stronger. I know that they can be more impactful. But I laid the foundation for it all there because I had to get a story out. Right. So so I don't know how other people do it, but I can't hit that mark at that moment because you've told me that's where it needs to be. I got to get the story and then know that I want to do that. Know that the emotional are in there and all those arcs need to be in the challenges for all the characters and then maybe I haven't put my character through enough, but now that I kind of know them, they do float in the back of my head. So it's all fixable. That's the beauty of writing, right?
It's rewriting.
Yeah, we get to fix it all.
Right,
I mean, you just can't let it die.
Right.
You've got to respect it and respect them enough not to let it die.
Right.
And sometimes I have scripts that I'm like, I did that one over, and everybody's like, we got to make a movie. It's COVID. I live with DP and I live with an AD and I live with an art department person. And then Cameron's like, I got to do you got to write a movie for this house with all of us in this house. And, you've got this one friend that can be the lead. And I was like, first of all, my house is the most insane, eclectic, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like you can't weave together a character from looking at this. It's just too insane. And and then add my my Trump voting roommate to my super, super offendable Democrat, Republicans are the devil other roommate. Like you can't, there's no through line.
Right.
And I wrote an entire script for this. We were casting.
Wow.
And I don't like it.
Right.
I'm not going back to it, I don't think. I know they want me to. Right. I know, but here's the other thing, back to the point. I had everybody on board to do this movie for free.
Right.
And everybody wanted to do it, and they were pushing me and pushing me and pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And I didn't love the script. And I knew that it was just I've just done so much already, and I've done SMARTASS, and I don't need to just make things to make things.
Right.
I might need to write just to write, but I don't need to go through that pain of all those people, all this, I just don't need to do it anymore. And that's a script that I don't know I really want to hang out with.
How did you even write it? If you didn't want to be writing it, how did you motivate yourself to?
This is exactly how I had the lead actress. It was a dream for her. She's the lead. It's on the camera's on her a whole 2 hours, pretty much, right?
Right.
And so I literally would finish a few pages and send it to her, and we would talk about it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Right.
And she got some good feedback and she got some reactions from some people, but we couldn't find this one character. We couldn't find a guy to play the main character opposite her, and the whole thing fell apart.
Well, I just had my kid. You reached out to me and I just had my kid.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
And I didn't. And I mean, maybe I revisit the script and I look at it. This is the other thing that's beauty about writing stuff and not putting it to bed is you could have a different relationship with it and you could see some beauty in it that wasn't there before. Right. But I didn't like the premise and my house didn't work for it. And it was existential and I'm not do fucking existential. I want to do real stories with real, I'm not that person really anymore.
Right.
I have more concrete ideas. I'm not I don't know. I just didn't enjoy, I don't know.
It's too like Richard Linklater.
Yeah, it was, and she was into it. They were all into it.
Sure.
They're still into it. I mean,
Linklater, I love, by the way. That was not.
No, I mean, are you kidding? There's tons of movies that are brilliant like that.
Right.
I just didn't think I got it right.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe if I read it again, I'm wrong. Maybe I just, I started hating it because I couldn't get a good, decent actor.
Right.
And maybe that just did me in. It was a weird lesson in trying to make something in LA.
So nothing ever happened?
Oh, we were about to make it and my roommate went bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, things just kind of like imploded.
Right.
He went bonkers over something that was absolutely true and he was absolutely right about, but he handled it really, really, really wrong. And then the whole thing imploded. It was like the height of COVID too. But I tell you what, man, I would have lost my mind because I wrote every day. I worked my ass off on that script.
Right. Yeah. That's what got you through.
Oh yeah. And then when that was done, when that kind of blew up, I jumped on with Casey onto her idea.
Okay.
And then every day I worked on that script, and every day that I didn't have a job, I worked on that script, and I had her to go back to. And even today we talked, and she's like, "So when can you go back to the script?" And I'm debating which story I should give my time to right now.
And that's nothing more than a friend who is an actor with whom you've worked, who's like, "Hey, I have an idea for a movie. You're a writer. Do you want to write it?"
Well, I kind of push. I'm pushy, so like I was also like, I can write that. Let's do that. Let me play with that. The problem, the action movie, these guys, the producers wanted me to they wanted me to take me to the guy who was the original idea. Like, why the producers are taking this movie idea is because of this one guy. Mm-hmm. Because I pitched, they had another writer, they was going to come on, and they came and talked to me, and I had an idea and I pitched it to them, and they liked it so much they wanted to introduce me to him.
Okay.
And I said, but he's not a real, like, he's just a guy that does fashion and got really, he's very well known and got very famous and knows famous people. So he's got a lot of doors open to him, but he doesn't know this world.
Okay.
Filmmaking. And I said, no. I said, no. I said, I need a script. He needs to read a script, because ideas never look the way you think they're going to do when they end up being, created.
Right.
I can tell you this idea and you're going to think this thing, and then my script is going to be this totally different. And that's kind of how it works out. That's how it worked with Casey.
Got it.
My script turned out very different, to the point where I was like, hey, we can take out this element. You can keep your original idea, and then we'll just keep playing with this script that we have.
Right.
Because it's become its own entity.
Right.
But that's cool. That's like a great, to have that problem is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So between the two, and I also, the other thing with West Texas is I know the boys liked it.
Right.
So if I go back in and fix West Texas has a little bit more of a shot at having some people with money and some people with power look at it. Whereas the other movie with Casey has Casey and I selling it, and Casey's a badass. She's a badass. And I do believe we can get this made. I just have to get the script written, but I have to decide which one I want to devote my time to right now.
Right.
Because our time's really limited, especially if we're also going to try and put food on our table.
Right. Yeah, man.
It's fascinating though, man. It's crazy. Like, our lives are really, I'm so impressed with people that, have gotten there and write for a living. And I'm really do. And I know that a lot of them have gone into writers' rooms and just been a writer. And that's how Alan did it on Survivor's Remorse.
Right.
And now he's making Sneakerheads. That's him and King Batch.
I don't have any idea who that is.
Yeah, King Batch is funny because, so Alan was a guy that I worked, that was on SmartAss.
Yeah. No, King Batch. Yeah.
And King Batch he was on airplane mode. He was an influencer. He came up on Vine, and he's incredibly talented, and he signed with CAA.
Right.
And so legit, really well paid actor. He's really fucking good.
Right.
But that's how that stuff works as well.
Right. Jesus Christ. That's like, the fucking world passed me by, I was too busy drinking and the world passed me by. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, this has been great though. This is like, there were a couple things in this conversation that I think are really helpful. And obviously it's great to just hear so much of your story that, we're missing pieces for me, in our friendship.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember years ago, probably like 15 years ago or something like that, 20 years ago, maybe. I have a sister who's 11 years older than me. And I don't know. I always put you guys together in my mind for some reason. I mean, I have a lot of love for her, a lot of admiration, a lot of respect. And I remember a long time ago, she said, Nick, a bus is not going to pull up in front of your house and be like, hey, come on, get on this bus. We're going to show you exactly what it is that you want. And you're going to be able to get to do whatever it is you want. Like you got to go and get it, and you got to go and do it, and you got to go and be it. And, I feel like I talked for the last, 20 years really, but for the last like several months. And it's like, just do it, man. Just stop talking about it.
That's a great way to, that's an awesome. I mean, I'm sure like I'm about the same age as your sister, but I think that, I think that's it's a great way to put it, is that there isn't going to be a boss that helps you become who you want to become or helps you make the things that you want to make. And sometimes you got to realize that you already are who you want to become, and that it's just a matter of doing a little bit more work to get to the places that we're going.
And yet I still find there to be a conundrum there of like, as a writer, as an actor, there still is this element of like needing to be discovered, and there still are these gatekeepers who you need to impress. And it's like, so
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I go back to him all the time. I don't know why, because he's amazing. He's literally amazing. He couldn't speak.
I know.
He couldn't speak English at all.
I know.
But he was on Venice Beach.
I know.
And he was roided out of his mind.
Well, he started by fucking buying apartment buildings, right? That's how he got his start. Yeah, he was working construction with all the other Austrian bodybuilders. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to buy a building, Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
It's amazing, which is brilliant, which I actually think is all artists should own property that has income. Although it is like having an albatross around your neck. It's really brutal. That warehouse almost killed me.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about the warehouse.
Yeah. Terrible. I remember like the guy I owned it with was like, we could have made so much money. I was like, I don't care. I don't care how much money. I don't care if it was $1 million.
Right.
I needed to get that. I needed to not own that warehouse anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so hated the drama and stuff it brought with it.
Right. But Schwarzenegger.
But Schwarzenegger, I mean, part of it's being out and being there.
Yeah.
And, I've been hiding for the last, we're all hiding right now.
Sure.
But even before this, since I moved to the Valley, I've really been hiding. And since I've been dating Hassan, I've really been like very domesticated and, building this sweet, without children, but much like when you get like that, it's very hard to just be out there all the time.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, and it goes back to that conversation of like, we didn't move out here young, and I also moved out here already in a relationship, So, I mean, when you're in that circumstance, it's like, it's hard to get out there all the time, It's
really hard, but you can, it was easier when I lived in the hills and I had that, socialite girl, like living with me, Sissy. Did you ever meet Sissy?
I don't think I ever met her.
Oh, she's amazing. She was like, out at everything, out, public, action. She's like pop star, blah, 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 blah. She did talk without a comma.
Right.
And you could leave the room. It was amazing. But she's cute because she had an Austrian accent.
Okay.
Austrian British accent. And so like it was just sounded like some, cute British persons babbling in the other room.
Right.
And she was but I just would go out with her, I would go out. It didn't really come to much though.
Right.
It was the things that were real were the connections that Hunter had in his 1% world and the people that had real jobs. But that doesn't exclude, and being on jobs. But it's hard for me because people think I'm a production designer and that's what they think I am.
Right.
You know how hard it is to even though people out here don't know me as a director, or as a writer. And and everybody says they're a writer or director out here that's working on crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, I'm really a goddamn director.
I'm not like a director like that guy. I'm an actual director.
Like I have a feature, I have like real names behind me. But even if they see that, still, it's a hard game, and I haven't figured it out. I'll tell you that much. But I'm not on the lost hope. I know that I've got some really good stuff that's really unique under my belt.
Right.
And I just have to find a team that wants to explore it.
Yep. So I'm going to, after this conversation, I'm going to give you a call at some point in the next few days. I'm going to tell you about this feature that I want to write, and I'm going to forget about the other thing that I was working on, or maybe I'm going to finish that up, but I'm going to tell you about this movie, see if it sparks an interest in you, and then, you'll hold me accountable to writing it.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I mean, I need people to do it for me. I'll do it for you. I don't need anything favor in return. Like this is what
I want to read more of your shit, which isn't a favor. Like that's not a favor for me. That's like a fucking pleasure.
Dude, this action movie's bonkers. I can't, it's so bonkers. It was so much fun. You need to just at some point write something that's just as big as you can possibly go.
Right.
You just have to you have to feel the freedom of it. I've never felt it before. I've always written with restraint.
Right.
Always with like budgetary restraint in my head. And this one was just as big as I could go. Action, insane, falling down 45 stories in the center of a hotel.
It was awesome.
It's awesome. It was so much fun to have that freedom for the first time ever.
That's great.
And yeah, it's cool. That's cool. You definitely have to try that. No, you definitely call me. Let's talk. I'm down.
Thank you so much for spending all this time and imparting so much of your wisdom. I appreciate it. I mean it. No, I mean it.
Absolutely. No, it's a blast. I like talking about it. It gives me, it's funny because when you talk about stuff that you have done and you do and you are doing, it gives you more hope to keep going rather than just in your doldrums of I wake up and, we're on this hamster wheel right now.
Totally.
Even if we have jobs, even if we have like random jobs here and there, which I have had, and I've had a very, very packed COVID year, but it's still Groundhog Day.
Oh, 100%. No, it's insane. It's insane. But there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little light at the end of the tunnel. I can see it. I meant at the beginning of this conversation when I said I actually am feeling hope, and that's exciting. I actually am feeling some fucking hope again, which is,
I love that.
Feels novel and, but it feels it's what I need right now. And honestly, like, it's funny. This conversation is exactly what I needed to happen because I'm actually going to like write after this.
Great.
Because
Perfect.
it's fucking bullshit.
Perfect. Yeah. It's also, here's the other thing about it. It's boring.
Right.
Like writing is actually.
I'm so tired of having the same conversation about why I'm not doing it. It's so fucking boring and gross.
It's just, it's boring because you don't have that like excitement that the roller coaster ride of writing.
Right.
You have you're banging your head against the same wall instead of having like a moment where like the sun shines through and then you go bang your head on the wall.
Exactly.
And then you go bang your head. Like you don't have that ride. And we do it. I mean, I do it because that's all I've known that I could do.
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's just always been a thing that's like, you have this, just work on it.
Yeah.
And I should have gone to school for it. I've never, I think it's my fear of failure, my hideous, disgusting fear of failing or having to do something that I could fail at.
Yeah.
I get so mad. I'm such a juvenile. I get so mad.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. And I throw it down and I walk away and I like break things.
Oh,
God,
totally.
it's such a childish way to be. It's so disgusting. But, I know I do it. And if I get back up and get, get butt sore for a while and this bitch doesn't like my stuff. Well, tough shit. She doesn't like your stuff. And maybe it's not that good yet.
Right.
And that doesn't make it feel any better. I still feel like I'm going to have a hissy fit and, shoot the guy that parks in my parking spot I just dug out of the snow. But like, but I it's you gotta just go back at it until you get it right. At some point you're going to get it right or you're going to die like we all do. So fuck it.
Fuck it.
Right.
That's absolutely right. Have a good night.
All right, buddy.
Great
Thank you for bringing me into this. It was awesome. It really was.
So
and I expect a call from you in a few days.
Yeah, I'll call you soon.
All right, sweetheart. Right, cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye.